In the town of Kof, the sun rose over dusty streets lined with small houses, markets, and trees that swayed gently in the morning breeze. Mama Zuri, a wealthy widow, walked carefully along the cobbled path toward the village, her fine dress brushing the dust lightly. Despite her riches and large mansion on the hill, her heart was heavy. She worried about her son Juma, who had lived quietly at home for many years because of a physical disability. Juma could not walk easily and he often relied on Mama Zuri's care. Though he was kind, gentle, and smart, Mama Zuri felt that he was lonely. She longed to see him happy, to see him laugh, and to see someone care for him in a way she could not. Mama Zuri had thought deeply about what to do. She realized that Juma needed a companion, someone who could love him for who he was and bring light into his quiet life. But she also knew that finding a wife for her son would not be easy. Many people would see his disability first and ignore the kind, brave heart beneath. Mama Zuri, however, was determined. She wanted to find someone who could care for Juma, but she also wanted to make sure he would be safe, loved, and comfortable. Early that morning, she rode her small horse-drawn cart toward the village square. She had chosen 4 young women who were known to be struggling. Amina, Nala, Sifa, and Tandi were not wealthy. In fact, they were struggling to survive. Each of them had their own challenges. Amina took care of her younger siblings after her parents passed away. Nala worked long hours in the market to feed her family. Sifa lived with her grandmother and helped with chores, and Tandi had lost her parents and lived with distant relatives who barely supported her. Mama Zuri believed that their struggles might make them more willing to accept her proposal, though she hoped they would also show heart and kindness. When she arrived, the girls were waiting by the fountain in the square, chatting quietly. They were surprised when Mama Zuri, known for her wealth and pride, approached them directly. Her eyes were kind but firm, and the girls felt a mixture of curiosity and fear. Mama Zuri greeted each one politely. "Good morning, my children," she said warmly. "I have come with an important request, one that could change your lives and the life of my son." The girls looked at one another nervously. They knew Mama Zuri was wealthy, but they did not expect such personal attention. She smiled at them, sensing their hesitation. "I will be honest with you," she continued. "My son Juma is a wonderful young man. He is kind, smart, and brave, though he has a disability that keeps him from walking easily. I want him to be happy and I want him to have a wife who can care for him, love him, and bring joy into his life. In return, I can offer you comfort, a fine home, and financial security. All I ask is that you live with us, care for Juma, and try your best to make him happy." The girls were silent for a moment, processing her words. Comfort, wealth, and a home were rare gifts for girls like them. Each of them imagined the mansion on the hill, with its gardens, spacious rooms, and abundance of food. They thought about how their lives could change forever. Amina thought about her younger siblings and how she could help them with the wealth she would earn. Nala imagined sending money home so her family could eat without worry. Sifa saw a way to help her grandmother with medicine and care. Tandi dreamed of escaping the hardships of living with unsupportive relatives. Yet, despite the excitement, they also felt unease. None of them had ever met Juma, and they knew little about what living with a person with a disability would be like. Would he be kind? Would he accept them? Would life in the mansion be as simple as it seemed? Their minds swirled with questions, but Mama Zuri's words had been clear. This was an opportunity they could not ignore. Each girl weighed her situation and the potential for a better life against her fears. After a long pause, Amina spoke first. "Mama Zuri, we will try. We will come and live in your home," she said softly, looking at the ground. Nala, Sifa, and Tandi nodded in agreement, their voices barely above a whisper. Mama Zuri smiled broadly, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, my children," she said warmly. "I promise you I will care for you as part of my family, and together we will make my son's life happy." The girls left the square with their minds full of dreams, questions, and uncertainty. They walked slowly, imagining what awaited them at the mansion. Amina thought about the meals she would cook, the house she would help maintain, and the boys she would meet. She hoped that she could be patient, kind, and brave enough to care for Juma, even though she had never known someone with a disability before. Nala imagined the gardens and rooms, wondering if she could bring joy to the house. Sifa worried she might not be enough, and Tandi wondered if she could truly adapt to this new life. Meanwhile, Mama Zuri returned to the mansion, her heart lighter. She had faith that one of these girls would prove to be the kind-hearted companion Juma needed. She prepared the rooms for the girls, cleaned the house, and even baked some fresh bread to welcome them. She hoped that her son would accept them and that he would soon find happiness, not just through the comforts of wealth, but through genuine connection and care. That evening the girls arrived at the mansion, their eyes wide with wonder. The house was grand, with high ceilings, polished floors and large windows that let in the warm sunset light. The gardens were full of flowers, fruit trees, and small paths that wound between green hedges. Juma was waiting in the living room, sitting in his wheelchair, his eyes calm and kind. The girls approached him nervously, unsure of how to act. Juma smiled gently at them. "Welcome," he said softly. "I hope we can all live together happily." His voice was warm, and though he had a disability, there was a strength in his eyes that made the girls feel comfortable. Mama Zuri watched from nearby, smiling quietly. She had done what she could, but now the girls would meet Juma, and the future would begin to unfold. That night, as the girls settled into their rooms, they could not stop thinking about Juma. Amina wondered what he liked to do, how they could help him, and if he would like her. Nala worried about her ability to adjust to the household routines. Sifa thought about her grandmother and hoped she would be able to visit her often. Tandy felt nervous but also excited, imagining the life she could build if she succeeded. Each of them had dreams, fears and hopes, but none could predict what would truly happen in the days ahead. The first day in the mansion had ended quietly. The girls slept under fine blankets in rooms they had only dreamed of before. Mama Zuri checked on Juma, who had spent the day observing the girls, noticing their gestures, their smiles and their reactions. He could sense their intentions, though he said little. He understood that living together would not be simple and that true care and kindness would need to be shown before anything else. As the stars shone outside, the mansion was peaceful. Mama Zuri prayed softly for her son and for the girls. She hoped that her careful choice would bring happiness to Juma and that one of the girls would show him the warmth, patience and love he deserved. She knew the road ahead might be full of challenges, but she also knew that a kind heart could overcome any obstacle. The next morning the girls awoke early, eager and nervous to meet Juma properly. Each of them wondered how their new life would unfold, what challenges awaited, and who among them might truly win Juma's friendship and trust. None of them realized that their lives were about to change in ways they could never imagine. The mansion was filled with possibilities and the journey had just begun. The morning sun bathed the town of Kof in golden light as the four girls, Amina, Nala, Sifa and Tandy, walked toward Mama Zuri's mansion. Their hearts beat fast with excitement and nervousness. The road up to the mansion wound through tall trees and flower-filled gardens, and the girls could hardly believe they were about to step into such a grand house. Each of them held a small bundle with their few belongings, and their minds raced with thoughts of the wealth, comfort and security that awaited them. As they reached the mansion, they stopped for a moment, gazing at its high walls, polished windows and large, heavy doors. The building was far grander than anything they had ever seen. Vines climbed the stone walls and fountains splashed softly in the courtyard. The girls could hear birds singing in the trees and feel the soft breeze on their faces. Their breaths caught in awe. It seemed like a dream, almost too good to be true. When the doors opened, Juma appeared in his wheelchair at the top of the entrance. His gentle smile immediately made the girls feel welcome. Though his legs did not work well, his eyes shone with warmth and intelligence. His presence was calm and peaceful, yet there was a quiet strength in the way he held himself. "Welcome," he said softly, his voice smooth and kind. "I hope you will feel comfortable here. Please make yourselves at home." The girls stepped into the mansion carefully, their eyes wide at the polished wooden floors, sparkling chandeliers, and tall windows that let in the morning sun. Everything seemed alive with beauty. They took small steps, trying not to trip on the thick carpets or stumble over the furniture. At first they focused on trying to impress Juma. Amina smiled brightly, holding her head high. Nala curtsied politely, while Sifa and Tandy tried to keep their movements graceful. Their minds were filled with thoughts of the mansion's wealth and how their lives might change. Mama Zuri followed behind them quietly, watching carefully from the doorway. She could sense their nervous energy and wondered which of the girls would truly care for Juma beyond the comforts he could offer. She hoped that at least one of them had a kind heart, someone who would look at Juma with love and not just with ambition. Her eyes scanned the girls as they entered the living room, noticing their gestures, smiles and small hesitations. At first, the girls admired everything around them: the large sofas, the polished tables, the sparkling chandeliers and the shelves filled with books. They whispered to one another softly, expressing their amazement. "I have never seen a house like this in my life," Nala said, her eyes wide. It's beautiful," Tandy added. Even Sifa, who usually appeared serious, looked around with quiet awe. Amina remained calm, though she too felt a thrill of excitement. Juma observed them carefully, his kind eyes following their movements. He could sense their thoughts and intentions without them saying a word. He noticed how some of the girls' smiles were forced, and how their polite gestures seemed aimed at winning favor rather than showing true care. Yet he also saw a flicker of honesty and warmth in Amina's demeanor. She moved naturally, greeting him without exaggeration, and seemed genuinely curious about his home and life. As the girls explored the mansion, they began to feel a strange mix of wonder and loneliness. Though the rooms were large and filled with beautiful furniture, the mansion felt quiet. There was no chatter of friends or laughter of children. The polished floors echoed with every step, reminding the girls that luxury alone could not bring happiness. They began to realize that wealth did not automatically fill a house with warmth or friendship. Nala glanced at Sifa and whispered, "It's beautiful, but it feels empty." Sifa nodded silently and Tandy looked thoughtful, realizing that comfort alone could not make life full. Mama Zuri led the girls to the dining room, where breakfast was ready. The table was covered with fresh bread, fruits, eggs, and honey. The aroma was sweet and inviting. The girls could hardly believe their eyes. They had eaten simple meals all their lives, and the sight of such abundance was almost overwhelming. Still, the atmosphere felt quiet and formal, not warm like a family gathering. They ate politely, trying to make a good impression on Juma. During breakfast, Juma spoke gently to each girl, asking small questions about their lives. "Amina, what do you enjoy doing in your free time?" he asked. Amina smiled softly. "I like to read and help others," she said. Nala told him about her work in the market. Sifa mentioned her grandmother, and Tandy spoke about her dreams for a better life. Juma listened quietly, nodding and smiling kindly at each one. He noticed that some of them spoke to impress him, while Amina spoke sincerely. After breakfast, Mama Zuri gave the girls a small tour of the mansion. She showed them the gardens, the guest rooms, the library, and the small workshop where Juma did his art. Each room was more beautiful than the last, and the girls felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They realized that living here would not be like life in the village. Everything required attention and effort. The mansion was grand, but it needed care, and Juma would need someone who could offer both kindness and patience. As the day passed, the girls began to settle into their rooms. Amina found her small space with a bed, desk, and window overlooking the garden. She felt grateful and quietly excited, thinking of ways she could help Juma feel happy. Nala arranged her few belongings neatly, while Sifa and Tandy explored their rooms, talking quietly about the mansion and what life might be like. Despite their excitement, each girl could not shake a feeling of loneliness. The silence of the mansion reminded them that beauty alone could not bring joy. Mama Zuri watched from a distance, feeling a mixture of hope and worry. She had given the girls a chance, but she knew that money and comfort could not create love or kindness. She wanted Juma to have someone who would care for him, someone who would understand him and bring happiness to his life. She hoped that among these 4 girls, one would show the warmth, patience, and heart that Juma needed. That evening, the girls gathered in the living room, the last rays of the sun shining through the large windows. They spoke quietly about the day, sharing their first impressions of Juma and the mansion. Amina spoke with sincerity about her desire to help and be kind, while the other girls focused on the wealth and comfort. Juma listened silently, noticing their differences, and Mama Zuri smiled to herself, realizing that the coming days would reveal the true nature of each girl. As night fell, the mansion grew quiet. The wind rustled the trees outside, and the chandeliers glimmered in the soft candlelight. The girls lay in their beds thinking about what tomorrow would bring. They knew that living in the mansion would be different from life in the village. Luxury was only part of the story. Kindness, patience, and understanding would matter more. Each girl wondered how she would adapt and whether she could meet Juma's expectations. Meanwhile, Juma sat by his window looking out at the garden thinking about the girls. He hoped that someone among them would show the patience and love he had longed for. He knew that life in the mansion could be lonely, but he also hoped that warmth and friendship could grow if someone with a kind heart chose to stay. He felt a quiet anticipation for the days to come, wondering which of the girls would bring true happiness into his life. The night passed quietly, and the mansion seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next day. The arrival of the girls had set the wheels in motion, and the true test of heart and character was about to begin. The mansion was beautiful, but now it was time for Juma and the girls to discover that real warmth, love, and happiness cannot be bought. They must come from the heart. The sun rose softly over Mama Zuri's mansion, painting the gardens in gold and filling the large windows with warm light. The mansion, grand and quiet, seemed alive only because of the birds singing and the rustling of the trees outside. Inside, Juma sat near the window in his wheelchair, quietly watching the four girls, Amina, Nala, Sifa and Tandy as they began their day. He did not speak much at first. He preferred to observe, to notice the smallest gestures and words, and to see the true nature of each girl. He wanted to understand who among them had kindness in their heart, not just ambition in their minds. That morning, Juma rolled slowly to the center of the living room. His calm voice broke the quiet. "Today I would like each of you to help with some chores," he said gently. "We have visitors coming, children from the village. They are hungry and want to play. Please help prepare food, serve them and spend time with them." The girls exchanged quick glances. Nala's face twisted slightly with annoyance and Tandy's lips pressed together. Sifa hesitated, unsure of what to do. Only Amina smiled softly, nodding. "I will help," she said kindly. Her voice had a warmth that made Juma smile quietly to himself. As the girls moved into the kitchen and garden, it became clear that their attitudes were very different. Nala complained under her breath, muttering about how messy the work was and how beneath her it seemed to be handling food for poor children. Tandy followed reluctantly, dragging her feet and sighing loudly with every step. Sifa moved slowly, unsure of how much effort she should give. Amina, on the other hand, worked steadily and cheerfully. She washed the dishes, arranged bread and fruits on plates, and carried them to the garden where the children would arrive. Her movements were gentle, her smile sincere, and her attention entirely on the children's comfort. When the children began to arrive, Juma watched closely. He noticed the way Nala and Tandy handed out food quickly, almost pushing the children away to get the task over with. They avoided eye contact and seemed impatient when a child asked a question or spilled some food. Sifa, while more careful, kept checking her watch, showing that she wanted the task to end soon. Amina, however, knelt beside the children, speaking softly to them, helping them eat and playing small games to make them laugh. Her hands were careful when feeding the younger ones, and her voice was always kind and gentle. One little boy, named Kofi, dropped his bread on the ground and started to cry. Nala rolled her eyes and Tandy muttered something about being clumsy. Sifa hesitated, unsure whether to help. Amina immediately bent down, picking up the bread, smiling at Kofi and saying, "It's okay, little one. Let's clean it up together. Now you can have some more." She gave him extra fruit and a small pat on the shoulder. Kofi's tears stopped, replaced by a shy smile. Juma, watching quietly, felt his heart warm. He could see that Amina's care was genuine, not just an act to impress him or his mother. Throughout the morning, Juma continued to watch the girls. He noticed small gestures that revealed their true intentions. Nala avoided touching the children's hands and spoke sharply when they asked for help. Tandy sighed heavily every time she had to kneel or bend to serve the younger children. Sifa tried to act polite, but there was a coldness in her movements that showed she cared more about appearances than the children's happiness. Amina, on the other hand, moved naturally, her attention entirely on helping and making the children feel welcome. Juma decided to test their patience further. He asked the girls to organize a small play in the garden for the children. Nala groaned loudly, muttering that she did not have time for games. Tandy crossed her arms, refusing to participate. Sifa reluctantly followed instructions, but her heart was not in it. Amina, however, spent hours helping the children arrange chairs, draw pictures and act out small stories. She encouraged shy children to join in, clapped when they did well, and helped the youngest sit comfortably. The laughter of the children filled the garden, and Juma felt a quiet happiness he had not known in a long time. As the day went on, Juma noticed more small details. Amina cleaned up without complaint, making sure each child had what they needed. She asked gentle questions about their lives, listened to their stories and treated each one with respect. Even when a child spilled water or tripped, she responded with patience and understanding, never raising her voice or showing annoyance. Her kindness was natural, coming from her heart, not from a desire to earn favor. By mid-afternoon, the children were tired and happy, and the girls had finished their tasks. Nala and Tandy complained to each other about how much work it had been and how little recognition they received. Sifa said nothing, but her expression was flat, revealing that she had helped only because she had to. Amina, however, quietly tidied the garden and kitchen without comment, then returned to Juma with a soft smile. He looked at her and said, "Thank you, Amina. You did well. You cared for them and I could see it in your heart." Amina blushed slightly but said nothing, simply nodding. Juma noticed her humility, her willingness to help without expecting praise. He felt a quiet connection forming, a sense that she might be the one who could bring real warmth into his life. He continued observing the other girls, realizing that wealth and comfort could not create love or patience. Only genuine care and kindness could do that. Mama Zuri, observing from a distance, felt a sense of relief mixed with pride. She saw that one of the girls, Amina, had a heart full of goodness and patience. The other girls, she realized, were motivated mainly by the promise of money and comfort. Their complaints, their avoidance of the children, and their lack of warmth showed her that they might never truly care for Juma as he deserved. The afternoon sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the mansion gardens. The children returned to their homes, waving goodbye to Amina with happy smiles. Nala and Tandy left quickly, muttering complaints about how long the day had taken. Sifa walked quietly behind them, looking thoughtful but unenthusiastic. Amina stayed behind a moment, gathering the leftover plates and sweeping the garden with care. Juma watched her and felt a quiet joy he had not known before. As the evening settled, the mansion grew calm. The girls returned to their rooms, thinking about the day. Nala and Tandy complained to each other, focusing on the work they had done and how difficult it had been. Sifa reflected on her actions but did not feel a sense of pride or happiness. Amina, however, felt a quiet contentment. She had helped others, made them happy, and learned more about Juma and his life. She realized that caring for others brought a satisfaction no money or luxury could provide. That night, as the mansion lay quiet, Juma sat by the window and looked out at the moonlit gardens. He thought about the day, about the children, and about the girls. His eyes lingered on Amina, remembering her patience, kindness, and genuine care. He felt that she might be the one who could bring happiness not only to the children but also to him in the mansion. He understood that the road ahead would not be simple, but he felt hope. Mama Zuri quietly joined him by the window, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did well today, my son," she said softly. "You have seen who cares from the heart and who only follows ambition. The girl who helped the children freely and with patience may be the one to bring happiness into your life." Juma nodded silently, feeling gratitude toward both his mother and Amina. He knew that patience, kindness, and care were more important than wealth, and he hoped that Amina's heart would continue to shine. The mansion, with its grandeur and quiet beauty, seemed fuller that night. Though the four girls still lived under the same roof, their hearts had revealed themselves. One among them had shown a heart of gold, while the others had revealed ambitions and impatience. Juma knew that the coming days would reveal more, but he felt that he had learned an important truth. True kindness is visible in small acts, in patience, and in the care one gives freely. The days in Mama Zuri's mansion passed slowly, filled with routines, chores, and quiet observation. Mama Zuri had hoped that wealth and comfort could inspire the girls to care for her son Juma. She believed that if they lived in luxury they might learn kindness and compassion. But as she watched the days go by, she began to understand an important truth. Money could not create love or patience. It could give the girls ease and comfort, but it could not teach their hearts to care genuinely. Each morning, Mama Zuri observed the girls as they moved through the mansion. Nala and Tandy, who had initially seemed excited by the promise of wealth, quickly became frustrated with the household duties. They sighed loudly whenever they had to clean, cook, or help with simple chores. Even small tasks, like sweeping the floors or arranging the table, became sources of complaint. Mama Zuri noticed how often they rolled their eyes, muttered under their breath, and avoided tasks whenever possible. Their focus remained on the reward of comfort, rather than the effort needed to make Juma's home warm and welcoming. Sifa, though quieter, was not much different. She helped when she had to, but her actions were mechanical. She did not speak kindly to the children who visited, and she often looked around as if counting the minutes until the tasks were over. Mama Zuri saw through this behavior and understood that Sifa's heart was not yet engaged in caring. Amina, however, was different. From the first day she had approached each task with a smile, humility, and a willingness to help. She did not hesitate to wash dishes, sweep the floors, or carry plates to the garden. When children arrived from the village, hungry and excited, she greeted each one with patience and care. She listened to their stories, laughed with them, and made sure each child had food and attention. Her actions were natural and unforced. She did not expect praise or rewards. Her satisfaction came from seeing others happy. Mama Zuri watched Amina closely and felt a quiet joy in her heart. She had hoped to find someone who could bring warmth and care to Juma's life, someone who could see beyond the mansion and the comfort it offered. Amina's simple, kind actions proved that such a person could exist. Mama Zuri smiled softly, realizing that her son might finally have the companionship he deserved. One afternoon, Mama Zuri called the girls to help organize a small afternoon tea in the garden for some guests. She wanted to observe their reactions and see how they would work together. Nala groaned loudly when she heard the request, muttering about the effort it would take and how boring it sounded. Tandy crossed her arms, showing visible annoyance. Sifa hesitated, appearing thoughtful but reluctant. Amina, however, immediately offered to help. She gathered the trays, set the chairs, and began arranging the flowers on the tables. Her movements were calm, steady, and careful. She encouraged the other girls to help, but she did not complain when they dragged their feet or delayed. As the guests arrived, the differences between the girls became even clearer. Nala and Tandy rushed through their duties, speaking sharply to the children who served the tea and ignoring small details that mattered. They acted as if the work was beneath them. Sifa helped politely but mechanically, never speaking warmly to anyone. Amina, in contrast, greeted each guest with a smile, helped the children carry food, and made sure every detail was attended to with care. Her attention to others was genuine, and her demeanor was calm and kind. Juma observed quietly from his seat under the shade of a tree. He could feel the difference in energy among the girls. While Nala, Tandy, and Sifa acted out of obligation or expectation of reward, Amina acted out of true concern. Her gentle nature, her patience with the children and guests, and her willingness to help without asking for anything in return impressed him deeply. He felt a quiet connection forming, a sense that this girl could bring warmth and care to his life that no wealth or luxury ever could. Mama Zuri noticed Juma's expression and understood that he had also recognized Amina's heart. She remembered the early days when the girls had arrived with excitement about the mansion, and she reflected on how differently each of them had handled the responsibilities of the home. It was clear now that only Amina possessed the patience, kindness, and humility needed to care for someone with a disability and to create a loving, happy home. One evening, Mama Zuri called the girls to the living room for a quiet conversation. She wanted to address the efforts she had seen and to speak honestly about the life they were expected to lead in the mansion. Nala and Tandy complained again, saying that the chores and attention to the children were tiring and not what they had expected. Sifa remained silent, avoiding eye contact. Amina, however, spoke softly. "I am happy to help," she said. "I want Juma and everyone here to feel comfortable and cared for. That is enough for me." Mama Zuri felt her heart swell with pride. Here was a girl who understood that happiness and warmth could not be bought or forced. Her actions, words, and attitude reflected genuine care. She knew that Amina was the one who could bring real love and kindness into Juma's life. The other girls, she realized, had only sought comfort and wealth. They had shown their true priorities, and it was clear that they could not provide the companionship and warmth Juma deserved. Juma, observing the conversation, felt a sense of peace. Amina's honesty and gentle nature drew him closer. He could sense her sincerity, her willingness to care without expectation, and her patience with the world around her. For the first time, he felt that someone truly saw him for who he was, rather than focusing on what he could offer in terms of comfort or wealth. This realization brought him a quiet happiness he had never known. Over the next few days, Mama Zuri continued to observe the household. She noticed that the other girls became increasingly frustrated, their complaints louder and their patience thinner. They avoided the children when possible, rushed through tasks, and argued over small matters. Amina, however, remained consistent. She continued to help cheerfully, tending to Juma, the mansion, and the children with equal care. Her presence brought a gentle warmth to the household that was absent before. One afternoon, Mama Zuri watched as Amina sat with Juma under the big mango tree in the garden. She spoke quietly, helping him arrange small potted plants while asking about his day. Juma smiled softly at her, enjoying the quiet conversation and the ease with which they spoke to one another. Mama Zuri realized that this simple connection, built on patience, care, and understanding, was worth more than any luxury or comfort the mansion could offer. Mama Zuri reflected on what she had learned. Wealth alone could not create love, kindness, or patience. It could give comfort, but it could not change the heart. She felt grateful to see Amina, who had shown genuine care without expecting reward. She knew that Juma's life would be fuller, warmer, and happier because of this girl's presence. The mansion, once quiet and formal, now had the beginnings of joy and connection. By evening, the household settled into a calm rhythm. The other girls were restless, showing frustration at the duties they had to perform. Amina, however, continued to move quietly, tending to the small tasks that others had avoided, speaking kindly to Juma, and ensuring that the children were comfortable. Juma watched her, feeling a growing sense of connection and appreciation. He understood now that patience, humility, and genuine care were more important than any wealth or luxury the mansion could provide. As the moon rose over the mansion, casting soft silver light across the gardens and windows, Mama Zuri sat quietly reflecting on the day. She knew she had found the girl who could bring true warmth into her son's life. Amina's heart, honest and patient, had proven itself in ways that wealth never could. Juma, too, had seen her nature and felt a quiet connection forming. The revelation was clear: true kindness and love cannot be bought, they must come from the heart. That night, the mansion was filled with a peaceful quiet. The other girls retired to their rooms, restless and frustrated, while Amina stayed briefly in the living room, organizing small tasks and speaking softly to Juma. Her gentle nature, honesty, and willingness to care without expectation were now evident to all. Mama Zuri smiled softly, knowing that the future of the mansion and the happiness of her son had found hope in Amina's heart. The morning sun shone gently over Mama Zuri's mansion, lighting the gardens and filling the rooms with warmth. The mansion, which had once felt quiet and formal, seemed alive now, as if it had been waiting for the right heart to bring it joy. The day had come for a decision that Mama Zuri had been considering for weeks. She had watched the four girls closely, observed their actions, and seen the difference between those who sought wealth and comfort and the one who acted from the heart. Mama Zuri gathered the girls in the main hall. The polished wooden floor reflected the sunlight streaming through the tall windows. Juma sat nearby, watching the girls quietly, his eyes calm and thoughtful. The four girls stood nervously, aware that this moment would determine their futures. Nala and Tandy fidgeted, exchanging worried glances. Sifa remained quiet, her expression neutral but uncertain. Amina, however, stood with quiet confidence, her hands folded in front of her, her heart steady and calm. She had done nothing to impress, only acted with care and honesty, and now she awaited the result with patience. Mama Zuri began to speak softly, addressing the girls. "I have watched each of you closely over these past weeks," she said, her voice calm but firm. "This mansion has given you comfort and my son has welcomed you here. But wealth, comfort, and luxury alone cannot teach kindness or patience. True happiness comes from the heart, from honesty, care, and love." She paused, letting her words sink in. The girls listened, some fidgeting, some quiet, and some holding their breath. Juma leaned slightly forward in his wheelchair. "I have seen your actions," he said gently, looking at each girl in turn. "Some of you worked only for reward, for comfort, for the things this mansion could give you. But one of you has acted from the heart, with patience, kindness, and care. This is the person whose presence can bring true warmth to this home." His gaze softened as he looked at Amina. "Amina, you have shown me and the children that real happiness comes from the heart, not from wealth or ease. You have been patient, honest, and gentle. You have cared for others without asking for anything in return." Nala and Tandy shifted uneasily, their eyes dropping to the floor. They had imagined wealth and comfort would be enough, but now they saw that their impatience, complaints, and desire for easy rewards had not impressed anyone. Sifa looked thoughtful, realizing that she had acted out of obligation rather than genuine care. She understood now that kindness and honesty could not be faked, and that her actions had revealed her true intentions. Mama Zuri continued, "It is clear to me and to Juma that only someone with a kind heart can bring happiness into this home. The choice is simple. Amina, you may stay and build your life here with Juma if you wish." She smiled warmly at the girl, seeing the gentle, honest nature that had guided her actions. Amina's face lit up with quiet joy. She bowed her head in gratitude, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you, Mama Zuri. I will do my best to care for Juma and this home, and to bring happiness to everyone here." She looked at Juma, who smiled gently, feeling a sense of peace he had never known before. He understood that Amina's presence would bring warmth, patience, and love, things that no wealth or luxury could ever provide. The other girls, seeing Amina chosen, realized the truth of Mama Zuri's words. Nala and Tandy exchanged glances, understanding that their focus on comfort and reward had cost them the opportunity to be part of something meaningful. Sifa nodded quietly, acknowledging that honesty and care mattered more than appearances or ambition. One by one, the three girls left the mansion, not angrily, but with a quiet understanding. They had learned an important lesson: greed and desire for comfort could never replace honesty, kindness, and genuine care. As the girls departed, the mansion seemed to breathe with relief and happiness. The quiet, formal halls were no longer empty in spirit. Amina moved through the rooms, arranging small details, helping with tasks, and speaking softly to Juma. Her gentle presence brought a sense of ease and comfort, not just to the mansion but to Juma's heart as well. Mama Zuri watched the pair together, her heart full of pride and relief. Her son, who had once been quiet and reserved, now smiled more often. Laughter could be heard in the gardens, and the mansion felt warm and alive for the first time in years. She knew that the right choice had been made. The wealth of the mansion could provide comfort, but it was Amina's heart, her patience, honesty and kindness, that created real happiness. In the days that followed, Amina and Juma spent their time together building a life filled with care and understanding. Amina helped Juma in his daily routines, spending time in the garden, reading with him and inviting children from the village to visit. She laughed with them, taught them games and made sure everyone felt welcome. Juma in turn shared his thoughts and stories, feeling more confident and joyful than he ever had. Their bond grew steadily, based on trust, respect and genuine affection. Mama Zuri often joined them in the garden, watching quietly as the mansion transformed from a house of formality and expectation into a home filled with warmth and laughter. She remembered the early days when she had worried about her son's loneliness and about finding someone who could care for him. Seeing Amina's gentle influence, she realized that true happiness could never be bought. It came from love, patience and goodness, and Amina had all of these in abundance. The mansion, once quiet and cold, now rang with laughter and the soft sounds of conversation. Even the servants and gardeners noticed the change in atmosphere. The home felt alive in a way it never had before. Amina's presence brought a sense of purpose, calm and joy to everyone in the household. Juma's face, once quiet and reserved, now lit up with smiles, his eyes shining with happiness. One evening, as the sun set over the mansion gardens, Juma and Amina sat together under the shade of the big mango tree. The sky glowed pink and orange, and the birds sang their evening songs. Juma reached for Amina's hand, feeling a quiet gratitude. "You have changed this house," he said softly, "and you have brought happiness to my life. I never imagined that someone could care so freely and kindly." Amina smiled, her eyes gentle and warm. "I only wanted to help," she said. "I wanted to make your life happier and to care for everyone here. Seeing smiles and laughter is enough reward for me." Mama Zuri watched them from a distance, her heart full of pride and contentment. She knew that her son had found someone who truly cared for him, someone whose heart was pure and whose actions reflected genuine love. The mansion, once a place of quiet formality and expectation, was now a home filled with warmth, laughter and joy. Over time, the mansion became known in the town as a place of happiness. Children from the village came to play and learn, always welcomed by Amina and Juma. Mama Zuri smiled as she saw the bonds growing stronger, the laughter echoing through the halls, and the kindness spreading beyond the mansion's walls. She knew that true happiness had come, not from wealth or luxury, but from the love, patience and goodness that Amina had brought into their lives. And so, the mansion that had once been quiet, formal and empty of real warmth became a home of joy and connection. Amina and Juma continued to live together, building a life full of understanding, laughter and care. The story of their home spread quietly through the town, a reminder that happiness comes not from money, power or comfort, but from genuine love, patience and kindness shared freely from the heart. The other girls, having left the mansion, carried with them a quiet lesson they would never forget, that honesty, patience and genuine care matter more than ambition, greed or desire for comfort. Amina, chosen for her heart, had shown them all that true happiness is earned through love and selflessness, not bought with wealth. And in the mansion, Mama Zuri, Juma and Amina lived together in peace and joy, proving that real happiness comes from the heart, not from riches. Laughter filled the rooms, warmth filled the gardens and kindness filled every corner. The mansion had finally become a true home.